So I've taken the fairing off, as you can see, and the first thing I've done is I've got a longer than normal socket here. This is one of the extended reach sockets that you can buy, and what I've done is I've put some tape inside the head of the socket there, and then what I'm going to do is on the engine bolt where you fit the crash mushroom to, I'm going to push this onto the bolt, so that gives quite a nice firm fit onto the bolt there. And then what I'm going to do is I'll show you how I'm going to kind of make the mark on the fairing in a minute, but when I put the fairing back on, this will indent into a bit of plasticine, which I'm going to put on the fairing in a minute, and then I'll know exactly where to drill the hole. So this is the other side of the fairing. This is roughly where the crash mushroom is going to fit, and as you can see, I've taken out some of the foam, the sound deadening foam inside here, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some plasticine in here, and I'm going to cover it over with a bit of insulation tape again, and then when I push this when I put the fairing back on kind of loosely, when I put all the screws back in, what will happen is that socket will make an imprint in here, and then I'll know exactly where to drill my hole. So let me just put some plasticine in there, and then we'll come back. Okay, so here's my plasticine. I've pushed that in there, make sure it's nice and stick. Make sure it's well stuck to the plastic on the fairing, which it is. And now I'm just going to cover this over with some black insulation tape. Right, so I've covered this over with a bit of black insulation tape. The reason for doing this is so that when that socket pushes down on here and makes an imprint, it doesn't stick to the plasticine and kind of pull the plasticine off and kind of, you know, make a bit of a mess. When it makes the imprint, you know, when I take the fairing off, this will stay and it won't kind of get dislodged or anything like that. So I'm just going to now refit the fairing onto the bike, put the screws back in, line it all up nicely, and then hopefully we'll see if we can get an imprint of where to drill the hole. Okay, so I've fitted the fairing back on. I've put a couple of screws back in. I've put one here, put the main screw there, and down here underneath. And then now, so let me just, so I can feel here, roughly here, where my socket is pushing into the fairing. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to kind of push it, you know, get it pushed into that plasticine, make sure it's got a really good imprint. You know, rearrange it a couple of times, just make sure it's in exactly the right position. In fact, I can see roughly, it's a really bad light here, but I can see roughly where that socket is pushing through onto the plastic. It's about here. I can feel it pushing onto the plastic. So hopefully we've got a reasonably good imprint so we know exactly where to drill our hole. I mean, in the instructions for the crash mushroom it says put a bit of paint on the end of the bolt, and I can't see how that would work, to be honest with you. I can't see how you'd line it up perfectly with a bit of paint. Hopefully this method is a bit better than that. So okay, so I think that's probably made a reasonably good imprint now. And what I'm going to do is take the fairing back off, flip it over, and see what we've got. Okay, so here we are, fairing back off again, and I'm hoping you can see in this poor light that we have got an absolutely perfect imprint from the head of the socket there on the fairing. Let me so we've got a perfect imprint here, nice round imprint. It's absolutely perfect, it's not going anywhere, it's not shifted. And all I need to do now is work out, probably just by eyesight, you know, where the middle of this hole is, this round circle is, and then I know exactly where to drill the hole. So you know, this is what I'm going to do actually is drill a very, very small hole here first, and take the bolt out of the engine, and I'm just going to make absolutely 100% sure before I put a cutter on this, you know, to drill out the main hole, just to make absolutely sure that this is perfectly lined up. You know, even though this looks perfect, you know, I just want to double check really before I drill the main hole. So there we go. That's how you get that's how you line up the crash mushroom with the bolt absolutely perfectly. And just in case you were wondering, by the way, this socket it's a 14mm socket, 14mm, and the length is yeah, it's about 62mm. Say 60. I'd say the absolute perfect length here would probably be about 55mm, because this maybe was sticking out a little bit too far. You know, you saw when I was making the imprint, you know, it was sticking out a little bit too far. Really what you want to be doing is pushing the fairing down onto this, rather than this kind of sticking out and protruding a bit too far. So if I was to say, if you're looking for the right size bolt, maybe 55 would be a little bit better than that, but hopefully this is near enough. Okay, so purely by eyesight here, I've marked out the middle of my indentation there, and what I'm going to do is just push down onto it and just make a bit of an imprint on the plastic on the other side. Okay, that should be enough. So I'm now going to take the tape off the head of the plasticine there, take that out, and hopefully there's a mark in there. Let me just put the camera down and check that, because I can't actually see it. Okay, well that didn't work very well. Unfortunately that didn't make a mark at all, so what I'm going to have to do is put all this back together again and start again and make another imprint, because I can't see where I pushed onto the plastic there. I think what I'm going to have to do is get a little drill bit and you know, use something sharper to try and make an imprint on that. So here we go, I've got to do it all over again. Okay, so here we are back again. This time I used a bit of clear film over the plasticine actually, just because it seemed like a good thing to do. And what I've done is I marked out where the centre of the hole, where the centre of the indentation was, and this time I've used a drill bit just to turn it around a few times, just to hopefully now make a good centre imprint. Let's have a look. Moment of truth. Oh, the light's in pretty bad in here, but yeah, this time I can see just there. The lighting in here isn't very good, but I can at least see with my own eyes exactly now where that hole lines up. So there we go. Hopefully that will help you to fit your crash mushrooms in the right place and avoid any disasters. I hope it helps you. See you again soon. Okay, back again. Lack of continuity, but there you go. So I've cut the hole now. I use one of these fairly cheap hole cutters on a hand drill. I didn't trust myself to use a power drill for this. And so I've put the socket that I was using back in there. You can see it protrudes, like, you know, like I was saying earlier, maybe it's a little bit too long. You can see here now I've put the fairing back on that it is sticking out a little bit, but I am pleased to say it does look fairly central. So what I'm going to do now is take the bolt back out and fit the crash bung, and hopefully it will look quite good. Okay, there we are, all fitted, all done. Luckily it does actually line up perfectly. I couldn't have got that nearer if I tried really. It's really nicely lined up, beautifully central. Do I like the look of it? Well, no, not really. It's kind of a shame to have to do that to your bike really, but you know, I do ride in all weathers, and There's always a risk that you're going to drop it if it gets a bit frosty or whatever, and I guess at least it will land on that and not damage the fairing. Yeah, it looks kind of sporty, I suppose. It looks quite cool. It's a bit of a shame to have to drill into your fairing, but there you go. It was my choice. Whether you fit them or not, that's up to you. But that's how they look once they're fitted. There we go. That's how I fitted my crash mushrooms. See you again soon. Cheers.